Discontinued
Gravy.
Give your discontinued gravy.
Goal: to simplify life and make it fun.
Because we've been there.
I mean, we're in our mid-20s.
So we've seen it all.
This is...
Discontinued.
Gravy.
Oh! That was the best one. That was the best one. Krista, do you know what episode this is?
I love that. Sorry, Nick. What? Huh?
Do you know what episode this is?
Episode.
Like
Actually,
the
I
number?
actually believe I do know what episode you're talking about.
This is episode 50, Krista. The big 50.
Oh my gosh, how did we do that? I mean, this is the one episode that like we actually thought about,
Yeah.
Not our anniversary episode, not our first episode.
Nope.
But 50. Wow, that's a big one. That's a milestone.
It took us a long time to be prepared for a podcast, but we are prepared for a podcast because we got the coolest guest imaginable. Miss Hannah Cat Jones. Hannah, how are you?
Hi. That's so sweet. I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm just really excited to see you guys, and this is my first ever like legit podcast interview, so I feel special. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically our first guest, so we feel special, Hannah.
Yay! Everybody's special.
We're all special. Right?
I know, I'm so overwhelmed right now, but I'm so excited because like you're like a sweet angel person for doing this in the first place, but to like also just kind of like know like you through social media is kind of like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm stoked.
Wait until you realize how tall I am. Like if we met in real life, a lot of times people don't realize like 5'11" is really tall, and I have 5'11" of me. That's such a weird way to say it. No, I'm 5 feet and 11 inches of a person. And so when I meet people, especially I teach acting to kids, and it's really taken off during quarantine, and after it's just kind of snowballed, and I love it, and it's so much fun. But then I like when I get to meet them in person, some of these kids I've been working with for like 6 months or even a year now, and their eyes get so, it's almost like I see terror. Like they're terrified at how tall I am. Like they think I'm gonna like step on them or something. And it's like, it's just really funny when people realize that I'm not the average height.
So you're 5'11".
It's a lot. It's big. That's tall.
I mean,
really
yeah,
tall.
it is.
And that's flats. I don't really like wearing flats. So I'm usually wearing, like, the only flats that I can manage are my Adidas, like, running shoes. But other than that, I have to be wearing, like, I love boots. I love platforms. I don't know. Maybe it just makes me feel, like, a little less. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It, like, helps me cope with my height. Because it's also a lot for me to handle. Well, being so tall, pants never fit right, and it is like the bane of my existence. Like I'm constantly trying to like reason with people, like these are not capris, they're just pants that don't fit me right. It's really hard to find pants that are long enough.
That's understandable. And from what I've watched on TV, you seem taller than everybody else, but now I'm thinking all those people were a lot shorter than I thought they were.
Yes. Especially Rainy Rodriguez and Laura Morano. Yeah. They're such cute, petite people. And I remember the first time when I went to a table read, I was just starstruck by the whole crew. And the first table read that I went to for Austin and Allie was my first table read on a TV show ever. So being on a Disney Channel show and meeting like all these celebrities in the same room, it was like a lot of star power, that energy that you feel, like just being around someone that you see through the TV screen, and all of a sudden now they're in person with you. And Laura Morano came to shake my hand, and I literally was like pushed back by just the amount of, she's so sweet, and so like her energy was just so strong that I like my tall, gangly, awkward self fell into the lap of one of the writers.
Oh wow.
And everybody in the room started laughing. They were like, that's something your character would do. And I was like, booked it.
You're like, does that mean I got it?
You
Huh?
guaranteed the
Like,
spot.
did that on purpose.
Yeah, you nailed the spot of Carrie.
Mhm.
But anyway, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
It's like mixed emotions because I got, I'm re-engineering my brain.
Oh,
Whoa, yeah, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I'm kind of holding myself more accountable to do like some internal stuff. And it's weird. It's like you open up the hood of your car and you start kind of like messing with little things to try to fix it. And then at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how to fix a car. So I'm like talking to a therapist, BetterHelp. It's great. There's some things that have happened through quarantine that have like totally shifted the way I operate. Like I love using Zoom for meetings, and like it's so convenient to have this conversation in my living room. I'm not wearing pants.
facts.
I
Honestly,
mean, I gotta do what you gotta do.
I feel her.
It's fantastic. I got the best of both worlds right here. Party down below, business somewhat up top.
Business on top,
you
party
know.
down below. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm doing the same thing basically.
No, pants don't fit me right, you guys. I gotta wear shorts.
I feel that, honestly, like on an emotional level. I feel that.
You feel like that, but yeah, no, like therapy's been really interesting because I do a lot of the talking, and then I think, it's kind of like I'm paying someone to listen to me. Like, I'm not really sure I love my friends, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times, like, you might have a problem and, like, unloading some stuff onto friends can do a couple of things. Like, it can kind of be like a downer, or like, it can kind of like, it's not really like fun to talk about. Sometimes it's just hard. And I don't like want to rely on my friends to fix me, and so then like talking to a therapist has been good, but it's just kind of strange because I'm like, wow, when you talk to your friends about yourself, and then they start talking about themselves or whatever, like the conversation, it's just interesting how therapy is very expensive.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's at least really interesting to like you're taking that time to figure out why you do the things or think the way you think, and you're deconstructing that. And it takes a lot of time in therapy. Like it's going to take some time to do that, but like it's amazing that you're doing it in the first place. But yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what? I don't know what I'm paying for at first.
Yeah, like the first session, I did a lot of talking, and then she was like, "Okay, we're done." I was like, "Oh, all right." No, I really love my therapist, and I think they have to get to know us. Like that's the important part too. Like they are kind of, a friend in the sense that they need to know like my background and things like that. And I don't know, it's just I'm a huge advocate for mental health. Like that's always been kind of part of my journey as an actor too. Yeah, and I think mental health is just as important as your physical health. And it's like if you don't have if one of the things is missing from like either your physical or your mental, then it really like can stop you from feeling successful in areas of your life. So it's been something like I really like, I'm glad that I started, but I definitely was procrastinating on it. And I think it's too because of the expense. That's what's unfortunate about it, and like, if we're going to go on a witch hunt with anybody, it's like the way that like kind of not necessarily society, but just like how I feel like there's kind of a lack of support from, media and like maybe like the radio or the news, these places that like could kind of talk more about like, have you checked in with yourself today? How do you feel?
Well, I mean, I think you're right in that sense because like mental health has been like growing, in the mainstream recently. But like for example, like in Canada and parts of you may have heard of it. It's called like Bell Let's Talk Day. And basically it's like every tweet, phone call, text on a certain mobile carrier, they donate 5 cents to mental health awareness. great cause. We're starting to learn that Bell's kind of a shit of a company, but we both used to work for Bell. It's kind of funny, but
We've never actually said what company it was, and now you just did.
I'm putting a name to it. But anyway, like, it's one day a year that they talk about this. It's one day of the whole freaking year that they're like, mental health, go check on yourself. Then January 29th comes around and nobody's talking about it anymore. Like I think there's a mental health awareness day like somewhere in like September, but nobody talks about it. Like this, like they're, they say keep the conversation going. Why are we not keeping the conversation going? Like a simple just like, hey, how's it going to a friend will help.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been listening to like all sorts of comedians, and there's a joke one of them talks about. It's like, when I ask you, how do you feel or how's it going, I'm not really asking you like to tell me, like, and so I think it kind of also is part of, what is that called? Like our culture, that I think it's great that you're saying like, let's have a day at least, once a year that is really focused on like unleashing or kind of taking down the facade. Like social media is really interesting because it's so much about like the instant gratification and validation through likes or followers and views and things like that. And it just, I think a lot of my my sadness kind of comes from that. And so it's weird because then you see posts like, I believe in mental health, or like, and it's just kind of like, it doesn't make any sense to me because I don't think that's healthy either, and it's very much like you have to hold yourself accountable and like do kind of it's exactly like going to the gym or like, eating healthy, those things that like, it's a balance. Like you don't want to go overboard with anything, and like you can't take life too seriously. I love dancing. Like I feel like that's a great sense of therapy for me, and like live music. And I'm really into like the festival scene. And during the pandemic, that my world was crushed because, and like to looking back on it, I'm so grateful and so fortunate that it was like the worst case scenario for me was that like, oh no, I don't get to go to a festival and dance half naked with glitter all over my body. You know what I mean? And it's
still fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun. And I think it's it's about like the connection and like being, like listening to music with a group of people. And it seems like at a lot of festivals, like people are so much more open-minded. Like it doesn't feel like you're getting judged as much about like what you're wearing or how you're dancing, how you're acting. Like it's kind of a culture that's much more embracing. And yeah, so it's just interesting trying to like figure out the balance between talking to someone and then what I can do like on a daily basis that isn't expensive to take care of myself. And that like the whole like self-care, I feel like is another thing that's somewhat, there's a word for it when you use it to your advantage on social media, exploited, like the whole like hashtag self-care. I'm putting on a face mask by this company, it's like, it's exploited in a sense that then it loses its value. And the things that are really helpful, which we can talk about in recommendations, are free. And they're completely free. And you're not going to get like a bunch of followers if you do it. And so nobody talks about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard too, like, because during COVID, like you said, like all your social life was shut down essentially, and that's because you weren't getting your cup filled anymore. You weren't getting filled back up from the other things that you had to go do, so your battery ran low. And then you did the best thing possible. You were like, okay, how can I improve my situation? But I think the hardest part for a lot of people is that first step of like, I'm going to actually ask to see a counselor or someone like that. People think there's something wrong with them as soon as they're like, maybe I should do this. And they're like, but there's nothing wrong with me. There doesn't have to be anything wrong with you, but no one is perfect, right? No one.
Right. And I heard someone else say this, and that's really when I took the step, is that they were saying like, they'd been taking therapy for years and like had really felt like they were, fighting it. And the sessions that they really didn't want to go to, they were, kind of because their parents were making them go. It was like a lot of, pressure and tension and anxiety of just like having to fix themselves. They felt like they were broken or whatever. And then as they were, going through this process, they started to feel better. And then they started to think, I don't need to go to therapy anymore. I feel better. But because they were held accountable, by their parents, and they ended up continuing to go, they said that those sessions, the ones where they felt actually fine, were one of the, like, some of the best sessions to look at them, like look at what's going on with more clarity, maybe not as much emotional stuff going on, but like a little bit more just from like, like a balanced perspective. So I think, it's kind of interesting, like, because there's such a stigma around mental health. It's like something that like only if you're really sick should you be getting a therapist, or if you think, like you're saying, if you think there's a problem with you, then you need therapy. And it's not that. It's just, taking inventory of sort of like what's going on in your life that is working for you or working against you without even realizing. Like there's so much that through therapy I've learned, like that it just doesn't serve me or suit me or help me, and it's been really hard to let go of those things. I think that's one of the hardest parts is like letting go of things that are holding me back. And it's weird because I know they're holding me back, but at the same time, I've let them become part of my identity, So it's very interesting, and yeah.
Now, we talk a lot about, being in our mid-20s and the stuff we've done with our lives, and we haven't done like a % of what you've done in your mid-20s. Like, you're in your mid-20s, you're on Disney, you're doing all this cool stuff. Like, how were you thinking about your mental health in your mid-20s, doing all these cool things? Because a lot of people, they assume, they're like, oh, you're doing something so cool. I would dream of being on a Disney show. How can you have a bad day being on a Disney show? Like that's, I think it's coming more now where people are noticing it. But like, you're in your mid-20s. You're still young doing this stuff. And like, how did you get through it?
I think that the most important thing that's always helped me sustain myself is the emotional support I get from my family, my friends, and my dog.
Yes, yes.
Love the fluffy creatures.
We love the fluffs.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think, one of the most the like hardest things to be prepared for when you're an artist that does get into these situations is the what's the word where you imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. That's such a freaky, like, so I have experienced imposter syndrome ever since I got into acting. Like I remember going to the high school for the performing and visual arts in Houston, and you have to audition to go to this art school, and the first day of school they actually didn't have my name on the list.
Oh.
For like, so everybody got assigned like a big brother or big sister, like a senior that was gonna guide them through high school, and then I wasn't on the list. And I don't know if my mom like just took me to that high school and was like, she's going here, or what happened, like where somebody like dropped the ball, but I felt like I didn't belong. And
Aww.
yeah, and I've always kind of had like, my parents are pretty emotional creatures. They're, my parents got divorced when I was 7. So like I always had one mom, or I had my mom crying on one shoulder and then my dad crying on the other shoulder. And that's had kind of an impact on my relationships as well, like just kind of my goals in having a relationship and what a healthy relationship for me means and everything like that. But then like after high school, I went to the college in Austin, and I started studying photography, and I had never really modeled before. And a friend of mine who is still one of my closest friends in Houston was like, you should go to the mall and audition for America's Next Top Model. She took me to the mall. Like we got there at 7 a.m. on a Saturday for a 3
on a whim.
Oh, no. I think we planned for a couple of days. And like at that point, I had like been, working at a gym over the summer and like learning about nutrition. Cause like in high school, I was straight up theater nerd. And so, yeah, love it. Like I could, gladly put a pie in my face, like any day of the week. But like being confident on camera, like looking like a model was like that just was like funny to me. Like I didn't think that that was something that I would do. And so my friend, she was like, let's take you to the mall. She had a big poster of me or not of me, but a poster that said Hannah J is America's Next Top Model. And because we got there at 7 a.m. in the morning, I was 24th in line. There were thousands of girls in the mall in Houston that day going to this open casting call. Like there were so many factors that made like that come into play. And when I talk to kids about when I teach kids acting or talk to them about whatever their dreams might be, whether it's modeling, being a pop star, being a dancer or a musician, whatever it might be, like luck has so many variables to it. And when you go to an audition, if you don't book it, it's not because it's rejection. It's not that they didn't like you. There's so many other variables, like funding for the project, or maybe they decided to go with a different different type of person for the part, or maybe maybe COVID happened and the project never even happened. So it's like all these different variables that at the end of the day, like you have to just do your best and go for it. And like the imposter syndrome was something that I definitely felt in America's Next Top Model, because like I'd never really modeled before. I put my hair in pigtails for the audition and they really liked that. I feel most confident when I'm, spunky and not really taking myself too seriously. Like if my hair's down, I kind of feel like I'm gonna go to bed now. You know what I mean? Like this is like and so like the going on the show, one of the weirdest things, I don't know, there's a lot of weird things about Top Model, but like one of the first episodes at the judging panel, I came without my hair in pigtails because I had been wearing my hair in pigtails for like 2 weeks at that point. And so I kind of wanted to change it up, and the judges like Nigel and the other judges were like, I don't really see why like how she's a model, like I don't really see it. And Tyra was like, oh, you should see her in pigtails, and when she gave me my photo for that week, she said, next time come in pigtails. And so it's also kind of like back to the imposter syndrome. It's like I'm like wondering like where my identity is and who I like, what, I don't know, you like as an artist and maybe as a person in your early 20s, you start wondering like who am I, why am I special, or what makes me interesting and stuff like that. And it's just kind of, it's been a ride to like figure out like personality and who I am, and I don't know, I kind of like being somewhere in between Bubbles and Harley Quinn.
Well,
both wearing pigtails.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
I want to say I've said this on the podcast before. We talked about hair once. Hair is like my favorite feature on somebody. I just think hair is so cool, and I've always said pigtails are my favorite hairstyle. I just think it looks so cute. And then all my friends are asking me, what kind of pigtails? Low, high? I'm like, I don't know. And I always show them the picture of Carrie.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Because it's the perfect pigtails.
That's so cute. Well, like my dad's a hairdresser growing up.
Oh, okay.
I was always in my dad's hair salon, and I just loved playing with hair. So I don't know. It's like, it's fun. And I like doing all different types of hairstyles, but the easiest go-to for me, especially if I haven't washed my hair in like 5 days, which is normal.
For blondes, yes.
Yes. And a lot of people try to make you feel bad about not washing your hair. I take a shower every day. Sometimes I take 2 or 3, but the hair doesn't get cleaned as often. And so like putting it up or in braids, things like that is just easier. And yeah, now we're talking about hair, which is so funny. I love it when I love talking about hairstyles and coloring hair and cutting it and all sorts of things.
I love talking about hair too.
You must have been so scared on Top Model though, because like they do some crazy things with the hair there. Were you scared that they were gonna either like destroy your hair somehow, especially since your dad's a hairstylist? Like I would be having anxiety. Like,
oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, I totally thought that they were going to like shave my head. I mean, I saw
they
it.
would though. They would.
Yes. I mean, they that was like a missed opportunity right there, because I would have totally had a meltdown. It would have been a very dramatic episode for me. But I think they got enough of me having an anxiety attack when they put bees on my head and we had to like model with bees all over our body.
What?
And the other thing too, like so anxiety is interesting, like going, and I jump around a little bit. I don't know. I have like a very different attention span to most people.
This is discontinued
And I
gravy.
am not medicating myself. So here it is.
Unfiltered.
Right, exactly. But I like the anxiety came out, like my anxiety really started to show when I was on America's Next Top Model. The pressure of being on that show was very intense, and the very first episode they tricked us. Like there were 30 girls that showed up to LA. They'd flown from, all different parts of the US for the like final week of casting, and they gave all 30 girls an envelope and they said whoever's picture is in the envelope is going to the house, and whoever's picture isn't in the envelope is going home. And I opened up my envelope and guess what? It was blank.
Why? Why do they keep making you feel like
That was week 1. On top of like the anxiety of being like, being a model, and people are a lot more body positive now, but like, and it's still a problem, but I mean, I definitely had like a borderline eating disorder, because I was like, I hope I'm going to be skinny enough for the show. And like, luckily I never made myself sick or anything. I definitely in my 20s have had issues with, and sorry, Nick, this is very girly, but also something that people need to be aware of. Like when you are very low body fat and you are exercising a lot and not getting enough calories, for a woman, that's very, very bad. Being malnutritioned is very, very bad for a woman, a man, or them.
Yep.
It's a very bad, it's playing with fire. And I didn't have a period for like, I had like maybe once a year. And I know that's like a very, a very personal topic, but it's something that young women really need to know, that like when you don't have that, that's a sign of malnutrition, but as a model, it was the norm. If you talk to model, like a group of models, a lot of them, if they're not like naturally very lean, will have this issue as well, and some athletes, like some Olympians and things like that too. So it's just another one of those things that is too normalized in our society, or not talked about enough, that it becomes somewhat normal. It's like it's just kind of shrugged off, and it's something that could affect us all if like women are less likely to be able to reproduce, like, you know what I mean? And it's all of a sudden it's Handmaid's Tale like coming into. So it's like, but yeah, I don't know. I went off on a tangent there. I had a lot of anxiety, and that first episode when they tricked us was really weird, because the girls who had their picture in the envelope were like whisked away, and they were like, haha, losers. I mean, they were really rubbing it in our face. And then the producers or the camera people interviewed us and asked us, how did it feel to be sent home first, and being rejected by Tyra Banks, and using all these like triggering words. And the thing with reality TV is, I don't know if they still do this or how it works on other shows, but on my season of Top Model, the producers behind the camera, or maybe not, I don't know if they were the producers, but whoever's behind the camera asking the questions, the interviewers, they will set up a question in order for them to get the ideal response that they want. And they'll ask what they want in the answer in the question. So you have to answer the question with the question in it. So it's very tricky, but it's something like, so why do you think Alexandria is such a bitch? well, I think Alexandria's a bitch because she didn't really have great parents growing up, and she always had to kind of fend for herself. But all of a sudden now it sounds like I think Alexandria's a bitch, even though not necessarily so. And so it was a lot of the manipulation too. That was kind of weird to see firsthand. But so they took the girls that thought that they were going home up to get their luggage. And Tyra Banks started walking down a staircase and was like, I had to face so much rejection before anybody told me or opened the door for me or told me yes. So I'm sorry I have to send you home, but the good news is you don't have to go far. She pressed a button and this curtain dropped, and all of a sudden we were in this penthouse apartment downtown LA with candy and toys and our pictures everywhere, and it was so surreal. Like on top of the like unrealistic life we were already living, like this weird world that we were already in of being on a reality TV show and filming and everything, like that was already surreal. And then the fact that they said, you don't get it, actually just kidding, you do. And like just that yo-yo of playing with us and like that one and like 3 hours of our lives. It was so strange. And the other girls that thought that they had gone into the house had been sitting on a bus, and we didn't see them. We never saw them again, basically, after they had thought they were going. So I ran into a girl in Dallas like a year later, and I was like, oh my God, I thought you disappeared off the face of the earth the way that that was just so weird. What happened? And she said that they waited on a bus for a couple of hours before a producer came on the bus and said, that was all for a show, you're going home tomorrow.
Whoa.
That's vicious.
And that's something that I think is also very it's very masked by like the smoke and mirrors of the industry, is that you, even when you think you have it, you might not necessarily have it. Like I try not to like talk to people about auditions or when I'm on hold for a project, or even when I've shot a project. I really try to keep my mouth shut. It's hard when I'm excited, and Superhero Diaries is a little different. But like for the most part, I try to wait until it's actually airing to talk about it, because you never know when you might get like edited out of a project. You never know when like you show up to the script the day that they read the script, and the producers are like, we don't really like the way that they're reading that actually, and they recast actors all the time like that. I saw that on my first episode of Austin and Ally.
Well, like I feel that just because like I don't like when I'm applying for jobs or something like that, I generally don't tell people. Like I won't even tell my parents. I'll just be like, I'm just applying them for myself, just because it's more personally like a superstition. Like once I tell somebody, I'm not going to get it because of that.
Right.
So I kind of get where you're coming from in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just can't get over the like you said, the yo-yo effect that was happening with you. So people keep telling you who to be, and then you can't be that person. And I can just imagine how hard in the industry that really made it to like stand up for yourself. And I just like, how did you do that for yourself? Because obviously you did, because look at all the things you've done.
Oh, unfiltered. Oh my gosh. Well, like, you know.
But I mean, you seem like you said, you're kind of like an emotional person, which kind of makes you a bit empathetic. So it makes it hard to stand up for yourself sometimes. So like being unfiltered, that's great. You know, if that's the advice that people can give me. Yeah.
So I learned that a lot too through some of the experiences that I got on Top Model, and sometimes I still kind of, you know, I have like the negative self-talk, like, oh gosh, Hannah, you're such a pushover. No, don't be a pushover. But like at the same time, it's important to be a good person. So there's like that balance too. It's like, it's just, you know, I think a lot of people put walls up. And as an artist, especially an actor, where my job is to be emotionally available and vulnerable on camera, I have to not put those walls up. And so it's tricky because, you know, people in my close circle they kind of see Harley Quinn, like, as far as like personality jumps. Like sometimes I'm super happy and other times I'm really sad, and it's hard because I'm, trying to be like a Zen master of my own emotions so that I can call on them a little bit more like in control of that instead of them controlling me. But like, I guess through, trying to answer your question more directly, I look at the work that I do and like I try to kind of learn lessons as I go. And one of the things that was really interesting and a fun story to tell is also from America's Next Top Model, like the episode at the end where there were 3 of us left. And I never, ever thought I would be in Morocco filming America's
Cool.
Next Model. It was amazing. And at that point, I felt like I had won because, I was on cloud 9. Like I at that point, it's like kind of one of those situations where, yes, I want to make it all the way to the finale and be like the America's Next Top Model, but at the same time, I was like, gosh, this feels so good to like have gone overseas with the show and like have to have made it through all of the challenges along the way. Doing a photo shoot on a landfill and actually seeing what a mountain of trash looks like, which they exist. And, it's definitely had some impact on like how I've tried to become less wasteful. I still have a shopping problem that I'm trying to keep at bay, but the last episode that I was in, the challenge that we had, I lost. And the winner of the challenge went and got a massage while me and the other person who lost had to pick up dead animal parts off the table, like a severed cow's head and guts and like hooves and all sorts of weird insides of animals. Put them into a donkey cart and then drag the donkey down a Moroccan alleyway as Moroccan men, like no women are around, as a bunch of Moroccan men are laughing at us, and the cameras are there, the cameras are rolling. So I'm thinking like when people see this on TV, they're going to be like, what is America's Next Top Model doing? This has nothing to do with modeling. This is crazy. And in the back of my mind, like, I wish that, like, I was like, this is so messed up, but I'm going to do it because I'm on the show and I want to get first place. And like, if I say, F you now, I'm not doing this and I walk away, then I'm going to give up that potential win. Yeah. And so me and Brittany, like, had these like little aprons on, and we're both like, like gagging because this cow head, we both had to pick it up together. Its tongue was hanging out. Then we had to crawl into a meat locker thing, in a third world country with a butcher who's like, laughing and sharpening a knife and covered in animal guts. And it was so gross and weird. And, then 6 months later, it's that episode that airs, and that was the episode that I got eliminated on. So I was like, oh, this is going to be such an interesting episode. Like, I go home, plus like this crazy thing happens that should never have happened on America's Next Top Model because it has nothing to do with fashion, has nothing to do with modeling, and they didn't air it.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Gosh, they started off the show on such a high note, tricking girls and making, crushing dreams. And the finale, wow, it really, it would have been just so much different had the show been edited differently. And, it's what's funny too is people always ask me, like, if when they see the show and they don't know me personally, people online, they're like, Hannah, are you really as much of a crybaby as they made you look like on the show? And it's just when you take 3 days to film one episode and you have to squish that into a 30-minute episode, what do you think's gonna happen? Do you think that they're gonna make everybody look like they're always in a good mood, or do you think that they're gonna take people having meltdowns, people having cat fights, people, I don't know, eating lots of cookies? I don't know. Just they try to make the episodes as weird as possible and as dramatic as possible. And I was definitely crying so much on the show because it was so hard. And it was literally one of the first things that I'd ever done on my own before. And yeah, I don't know. Like as far as Kristen, I wish I could answer your question like a little bit more.
Honestly, I think you kind of did though. You pointed like at certain things that like I kind of picked up. You're like just noticing, like you noticed that was messed up. I think just starting to like take the time and be like, hey, like I should have stepped up there. Now next time, if you're ever put in a situation where you feel like you're getting mistreated, you're probably going to stand up and say something because at the end it's not going to be worth it.
Right. And in hindsight, had I been like, no, F you guys, I'm not doing this, the worst thing that could have happened did happen. I got eliminated, know? So, and in hindsight, getting eliminated that episode was the best thing ever because the two finalists got all of their hair chopped off.
Oh!
Things happen for a reason.
Yes.
What?
So Tyra was like, okay, the final challenge. A supermodel has to be able to rock any haircut. So both of the girls got all their hair cut off. And Brittany, the winner, looked like a pixie. She looked super cute. And Molly, I was like, dang, you look kind of cute. Like Justin Bieber cute. You know what I mean?
Oh.
I was like, I didn't know I'd have feelings like that for a girl. But that was cute. I was like, okay. And yeah, so I mean, it was a very interesting finale to the show. And I remember one of my favorite things was like being back in Dallas, Texas with my grandma who saw like, little Hannah on TV and like, you make your grandparents so proud when like they see you do stuff like that, and
So
I
awesome.
I went to the grocery store. She was out like she grabbed the car and I came back to the car and I'm walking in front of the car and I get into the the passenger seat with her and I'm like, let's go, Grandma. And she was like, you walk like such a model now.
Oh.
And it's like those little moments where like that's where family or people that know you before you're successful and stick with you through your success are so important because they're like kind of mirrors and can help you with like, some of the things that come with all of the pressures of the industry. And my grandparents were always super like, supportive and like getting me acting classes when I was a kid and stuff like that. And so that's what is kind of the payoff. It's not like winning the show, but like getting to, my grandparents getting to see that. It was fun.
That'd be pretty cool. I feel like that would be a pretty cool feeling. But you mentioned earlier how it was a little different with the thing you're doing now, which is Superhero Diaries. Why is it different with this now?
I'm really grateful to be part of this. I met Scott, one of the producers of the show, a couple years ago at Sundance, and it was just like the way it's all sort of played out. I feel like he's given me a lot of freedom with the character and also kind of input on, the storytelling. And so I feel like I have a lot more involvement than being an actor to him and the project. It just feels like we're a family, and that's also really just a good sign of collaboration. And that's something that I felt a lot on Austin and Allie was, the four main characters were like family. They'd been working on the show since they were a lot younger, and like the years that they were on the show were very formative years for them, where they went from kind of like, young teenagers to like 18-year-olds. That time in your life is so important for anybody that age, but for them to be on Disney Channel. And then, I came in with that, and I definitely didn't tell anybody right away, but as I got to work with the costume designer, and this is something that I tell kids that I teach acting to, it's so important to be involved with like creating your costume and creating the character from the outside. And so I just feel like, it feels really real to me with Superhero Diaries in that sense as well, of just like the connection with the people I'm working with to, it is business at the end of the day. And if Harley Quinn, if I get cut as Harley Quinn, I'll be sad. But it would be really hard to find someone who fits in the costume, because that costume does not, it is, I had to get a size medium for the bottoms, but a size small for the top, and it is very hard to fit in. It is very hard. I wish that they had more options for the Harley Quinn outfit, is what I'm saying. Like, it is so hard to find this costume online. It's and like in the right sizes. It's kind of sad.
But I mean, from your Insta, you rocked it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and plus it would be a big mistake if they decided to go with someone else. Like, just from like the beginning of this conversation, you're Harley Quinn, especially in Nick and I's books now. Yep. But you were talking about collaboration on Austin and Ally, and I believe he was like your love interest on the show, Des. He's from Victoria, I believe. Nick, if I'm wrong, correct me.
He is from Victoria, British Columbia.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, did you ever get to visit, like, Vancouver or Victoria in that area?
My goodness, no, I haven't yet. I mean, hopefully I get invited to his wedding or something, and they have it. I don't know. I love crashing weddings, so that would be fun.
Cough, Krista.
I got to go to Canada once when I was really little, but I have some friends, and I always mess up where they're from. I don't know if you guys know Josh, the genie, the blue genie. He like plays a genie, and he does like make a wish sort of stuff, but he's from Canada.
In the show Austin and Ally?
No, he's not from Austin and Ally. He's just a personality like in his own right.
Oh.
Literally looks like he has a blue genie outfit. I think if you like Googled or went on Instagram and looked for like I am a genie or something like that, you might find him. But he's like full on blue, and he's from Canada. I love Canadians.
Well,
but it's been a minute since I've been there.
Well, I'm going to formally invite you to Vancouver whenever y'all want to come over, and we'll do a live podcast.
Yes.
All of us.
Awesome. Do you guys use y'all there? Because I think I just heard you say y'all.
You know, I think it's just me. I like to throw y'alls in there because, it started as like an ironic thing because, like it's generally known that, Americans say that and y'all's just kind of a funny word to me. But you know what? It's become absolutely 100% part of my vocabulary. And you know what? I'm okay with it because I think y'all is a great word.
Yes, it's very convenient.
Gender neutral.
Exactly. Gender neutral. I want to like have a petition for y'all. Like, let's just all hop on the y'all bandwagon. Because I think, it's very inclusive and it represents like, a group of people that rock. Y'all are awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate the invite. I would love to take you up on that. Yeah, y'all in America is actually, it's not even an American thing. It's really like a Southern thing.
It's true.
So you said that, I was like, whoa.
Back in Texas.
I have my Texas roots. I don't know. Honestly, I have no roots in Texas, but
you lied.
I was in the airport. I was in the airport once.
Oh, that counts. The airport in Texas is really fun. Lots of food options between flights.
Huge.
Good to know. Well, I feel like this is a good time to go to one of my favorite segments, and it's called Questions of the Week. I really should have let you do this.
She can do the next one. We'll get you to do the next one, Hannah.
Yeah, you can do the next segment. Sorry.
You get used to it.
Yeah, it's honestly a spur of the moment thing. Never know what way the segment's gonna go.
Never.
But we had some interesting questions, and some of them are directed straight to you, Hannah. But Nick and I might put our 2 cents in too. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, Hannah, what was the closest you got to quitting, and how did you get through that situation?
Ooh, the closest I got to quitting, I feel like it was really, really early on. after I'd done America's Next Top Model, and that's what it's. What do you think? That's what it's in regards to, right? Like quitting,
Yep.
like my.
Yeah, entertainment probably.
Yeah. So right after America's Next Top Model, like before I really got into the thick of it, I hadn't moved to LA yet. I was actually living in Dallas with my grandma. She was one of the best roommates I've ever had. I lived with her for a year, and I was kind of working. I was working myself to the bone, literally. I had met with an agency there that said, in order to be a star in the industry, you have to be almost unhealthy looking, and took a measuring tape that she had on the door and like measured me and told me where I needed to lose weight. And
don't love that.
don't love that. That's not true. Everybody listening out there, you don't have to be unhealthy looking to be absolutely amazing.
Nope.
You are amazing. You are amazing when you're healthy. That's the most important thing, is to have your health. But I was really impressionable at that point because I had given up college and relationships to pursue modeling in hopes of getting my foot in the door with acting. And so I was not eating a lot and working really hard at a gym to kind of, make money to move out to LA, and was still like, doing photo shoots for my portfolio, but nothing had really happened yet as far as booking work. And I was really sad, because I think at that point I was like kind of basing my happiness on my success, which is also not something that anybody should get in the habit of doing. Happiness doesn't really come from, being successful is important to, reach your goals, and that's a great feeling. But happiness is something that you should, strive for, and just like sitting and breathing, that's happiness, is being alive.
Yes.
And when you're unhealthy looking, that is not gonna be there. Happiness is not gonna be there, right? So I was on the phone with my dad crying. I'm very close with my parents, and my dad is someone that I can always call, and he'll give me some pretty bad advice. But
gotta always have that though.
yeah, I'll always have his advice, as even though sometimes he's like, "Whoa, what do you want me to say?" I'm like, "Dad, I need you to say that everything's gonna be okay." But I called him this time, and I was, crying like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm scared. I've given up college. What's gonna happen if this doesn't work out? And he was like, "Hannah, you gotta just get back into it." He was like, snap out of it. He basically like gave me a whoop on the phone and was like, "You got this. You gotta just hang in there, and you can do this." He was like, "What have you been waiting for your whole life? This is the time. You can do." Like, it was just that pep talk that, I needed to hear out loud. It's hard. Like, you can be your own cheerleader, but it's just hard to sometimes get yourself out of these ruts. And so again, family and emotional support from friends, like, it's important to be surrounded by people that are positive influence, and don't suck take like, that's another really hard lesson to learn. But I've ever since then, I've kind of just, try to take every day at a time and do small achievable goals on a daily basis that help me feel like I'm working towards my goal, my bigger goals. Cause like, having a really big goal is important, but then thinking about like what you can do to take one step at a time, and it can actually make things feel a lot easier and a lot less scary and intimidating. And yeah, now it's kind of like, this is what I'm meant for. And, I think the other part too is taking the expectation of being famous or rich out of it, because, I've had like a little stroke of that feeling of being recognized at grocery stores and movie theaters and malls. And as much as I love meeting people I haven't met, meeting friends I haven't met yet, fans or whatever you want to call them, that sometimes don't know my name, but are like, "You're 5'11", you must be someone famous," right? No,
I mean, they're not wrong.
right? They're like, "Your hair's in pigtails. Are you someone that I should know. You know, sometimes people come up, I've had someone come up to me and be like, oh my God, I loved you in Crazy Stupid Love. And I'm like, yeah, no, first they go, I loved you on your season of America's Next Top Model. I really wish that you would have made it. And I'm like, thank you, because that part's true, right? And then
Okay,
they're
that's
like,
nice. That's really nice.
no, but then this person kept going. I was like, oh my gosh. And then when you were on Crazy Stupid Love, that was so cool. That was so amazing. And then when you were in the Green Hornet, and I was like, you got the wrong ANTM alumni. That's actually Leo Tipton, who used to be, it was Annalie Tipton when she was on America's Next Top Model, but now they identify as Leo. And Leo and I are doppelgangers, and that was kind of someone who inspired me to get on America's Next Top Model. So I was flattered, but at the same time kind of bummed because they were recognizing the wrong person. So fame is an interesting one because it's like I kind of love where I'm at. I'm someone who still can go incognito. When I have a mask on, people really don't recognize me. It happened once in an elevator this past year where someone recognized my voice. That was kind of cool. But I love taking pictures and answering people's questions and hopefully giving them faith and encouragement that the things that they're passionate about are possible. And being passionate is such an amazing feeling. Like when you find something you're passionate about, the next thing is just doing it every day, and something amazing is gonna happen out of it. So yeah, I love that question. It kind of is like a whole, I feel like we could make a whole podcast season on that question.
Absolutely. I love that.
Just be the third person on the show. We won't mind it. Let's make it a 3-person show. Why not? We do have another question. This one actually is specifically about Austin and Allie. They just want to know what your audition process was like. We know how you got to the table read, but we want to know the process of leading up to that table read.
Okay, so that was it's so surreal again. But I had been in LA for a year, and up until that point, I had been strictly modeling and doing runway shows and photo shoots, and I was doing these really crude, not crude in the content, but crude in the editing. Crude YouTube videos, like behind the scenes of fashion shows and photo shoots. So I was vlogging a little bit, and I did a photo shoot with Alexandria from my season, and the makeup artist on that set reached out to her cousin who is a talent manager, and was like, hey, you need to meet this girl. She, she's from Top Model. And I got kind of linked up to this manager. So step one, get representation, get a manager or get an agent, get someone who can submit you for projects. The best way to do that is through showcases and doing, a lot of people take like the long approach of like going to a theater college or university, and then at the end of that 2 or 4 year conservatory, they usually have a showcase where agencies come. But there's plenty of showcases in LA or probably anywhere that these listener is based. And if there isn't, definitely put yourself out there on social media. Social media is a great tool, and that's basically how I kind of got into the office of my manager. She, called me in and asked me if I wanted to start auditioning for television and film, and I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, yes, please. Like I had been wanting that for years, and so many people on the outside of the industry will say it's so difficult and it's almost impossible. You're better off winning the lottery. I heard that when I was a kid all the time. Oh, you want to be an actor? You're better off winning the lottery. And the problem is I believed it so much that it made it so difficult to even just have the courage or the confidence to call agents. And that's another approach. Put yourself, on casting networks or Actors Access are really great websites for actors to submit themselves to projects. If they're independently representing themselves, then they can still submit themselves for projects, especially local projects or nationwide projects. Backstage is really great too. But long story, kind of trying to cut it down and make it as condensed as possible as far as my approach. Once I got my manager, it was like boom, boom, boom. I started all of a sudden getting auditions really, really quickly. And I was like, I can't read this fast. Good reader, like practice reading, because you like I was reading scripts and then having to memorize them and then either put myself on tape in a what's called a self-tape submission or go into the auditions on studio lots like Paramount and the Disney, where a lot of Disney films at the Hollywood studios, which fun fact is the same studio lot where I Love Lucy was filmed.
Oh.
So yeah, Hollywood Studios. So I had 3 auditions. Like the first month I was working with this manager, and the third audition was for Austin and Ally. And I got the script, and basically I got sides, which is a little sample of the episode, so that I know I know pretty much the moment before my character enters and about 10 seconds after they leave to get an idea of what that episode's about. So I had like 3 pages of script, and I just loved Carrie on the page. I like felt like I was like, I can be her, you know, and I could hear her voice and my voice. Like, I feel like she talks a little bit more high pitched than me. And so I was like, you know, practicing her in front of the mirror, and she's, you know, a space cadet. So I was like having fun with being like a little clueless. And I love comedy. So the writing, like the writers of Austin and Ally are actually the same writers of Good Burger.
Oh.
Yeah. So Heath and Kevin were the writers of Austin and Ally, and they've done a couple of other, like, you know, if you go to their IMDb pages, you'll see that they've, you know, working with them was really, really exciting. And because their writing is really great. And yeah, I go into the audition. It was funny because I worked with my manager that day to kind of prepare, and she was like, you might actually get this. And she said it in a way like, I'm kind of surprised at how well you're like acting like this character right now.
Oh.
And that's kind of the thing about acting too, that at least from my experience, and like, you know, I kind of feel like I'm the type of I'm a character actor. Like, I really like playing particular people. I'm not really sure if I could play like a lawyer or someone too serious until maybe like my mid 30s or 40s. But for now, I'm really enjoying the characters that I am typecast as. And I go into the elevator at the studio lot where they film like Liv and Maddie and all these other really awesome Disney Channel shows. And as I get in the elevator, there's a lady who's also going to the same floor as me. And for some reason in my mind, I'm thinking that she's there for somebody's audition. Like maybe she's someone's aunt or like a family member, because she just had that like very warm vibe about her. So we start talking about blueberries being on sale at Vaughn's.
Out of all things.
I know, I was so random, and like just I was trying like I like to play my character leading up to my auditions or leading up to the days on set. I like to be in character and somewhat of a method actor in that respect. And so I was just like bubbly and talking to her about blueberries. And then we get into the casting, like the waiting room, and I go to sign in, and she walks into the casting director's office, and she pokes her head out again. She's like, oh, you must be auditioning for Carrie. And I'm thinking, oh, you must be the casting director. Like, I had no idea that my audition had basically already started. And I love telling people that part of the story, because it really is important how you show up to your classes as an actor, how you show up to any sort of opportunity is an audition, or it's another step to open doors for more things. So like, you know, showing up with a good attitude, showing up prepared with a pen and paper, you know, looking presentable or feeling like your character, taking a shower. Those are important things, people. And so it was a really great session. Like I did the script with her, and what I was not expecting at all was her to laugh as hard as she did at the parts where it was supposed to be funny. And I was like, because that for me is one of my favorite feelings.
Yeah.
Is hearing people laugh.
Oh yeah.
Especially when it's something that I've said or done. You know, like I said earlier, I am gladly going to take a pie in the face if I know a laugh is going to come after that.
I feel it.
so I did the scene, and then she called her assistant, her casting assistant, who's now got her own casting company and doing great things, Shayna Sherwood. And Shayna started laughing. And I was like, whoa, this feels right, you know? And those are like the kind of auditions that it's like no matter what happened afterwards, like if I had booked it or not, I felt like really good about what I'd done. So that's like another piece of advice that I'd give people is like put your best foot forward, give it your all, and then afterwards you have to like walk out saying like I did everything I could in my power, and now it's up to luck and all of those little things that have to kind of come together, you know. And I got a call. I think I still have the recording somewhere because Shayna called me, and she called my manager and was like, we want to put Hannah on a veil. We're going to have her come in and do a producer session, but we want her on a veil. And I had never heard this word before, a veil. Like, I was like, this is like, what does a veil mean? And that she's like, we've pinned her for Carrie. And I was like, pinned? I don't know what that means. Like, it's not like you booked it. It's not like you're hired. It's these strange words that I hadn't heard before. And funny enough, I had made friends with Jesse Metcalf when he was filming Dallas. That's the guy who played John Tucker Must Die. And so
yeah.
I ran into him at the gym in LA and in West Hollywood the week this was all kind of happening. And I was like, Jesse, what does it mean when you're on hold for something? Like when you're like if they're asking if you're like you're avail, like if you're penned, what does that mean? And he was like, that means a really good thing. That's all I could say. And I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks. And then.
And you're going insane. You're like, okay, so it's good, but what type of good?
Right. And then I went to the producer session, and I remember there were a couple of other Carries that they were looking at, and that's another part of the industry that I think a lot more people are familiar with is that, you know, when you go to an audition, you're not the only person who's auditioning for the character. And something that's really important and something I've struggled with, especially on America's Next Top Model, was comparing myself to other contestants on the show. And so I was, you know, in the zone that day because like I, you know, was nice to the person next to me, but also kind of like, I cannot wait. I can't wait. This is so exciting. And she went in. Oh, no. I went in first. She was really nice. I went in first. And it was like a very small room full of people, producers, Kevin and Heath, the writers, Craig, one of the, another writer who also directs, the director for that week, the casting directors, and then like the big Disney producers, like the people that are really like running the show. And so I remember walking in and hearing one of them go, and I was like, ooh, that feels like, I think that's a good thing. And then I did the scene, lots of laughter, and like I kind of had added something right at the end. And that's also something I recommend for people is like, you want to stick to the script. As an actor, you want to like stick to what's the words that are on the page. You want to respect the writer's work and add to it with your character, with your physical self, with your wardrobe or physical, you know, the physicality of the character and the mental stuff, like the thoughts that you have as the character. And it's all supposed to support the script and not distract you from the story. So like when it comes to like wardrobe and stuff like that, it's just like maybe a color or like one accent of the character that really helps you feel like that. And then at the end, like my last line for the audition was, that's why they call me the love robot. And then I did like the robot off, like beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And I think that it really, you know, it felt like it went really well. Yeah. And then I had to leave the audition. And it was funny because the girl that was going after me was like, because it was a really good audition, lots of laughs. And she was just like, I could tell she was like, I gotta follow that. And I was like, oh no, I know that feeling. And like later I was at a dressing, I was in a dressing room, like trying to just like get my mind off things by going shopping. And my manager called me and she was like, you booked it. and I just like dropped to the floor. I was like, this is
Yay!
so, yeah, it's funny, like I had an acting class right before this. That's why we had to kind of push things back. And one of the kids in class was like, how many auditions did you have to go on before you booked your first role? And it's like, the short answer, 3, right? Like those first 3 auditions. The long answer is like, I had been acting for at least 10 years, and like everything that, you know, classes and auditioning for little stuff that wasn't necessarily on TV, but had helped me kind of be aware of what an audition feels like. All of those things kind of add up to that moment where things do go right, you know? And I recommend anybody who is an aspiring artist, like if you're like, give acting as an example, it's like, if you want to be an actor, I really recommend trying to find a stage. Trying to find a set, you know, filming with people is really important. Learning how to work with people on set, and then go to every audition you can. But if you book it, then you know you are kind of supposed to show up for the job. So make sure you like the auditions that you go on too.
That's probably a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the kids today was like, what if you get hired for something you don't want to do? I was like, you shouldn't have gone to the audition, you know? And if you don't have like enough clarity on the project, then that's kind of a red flag too. I think like it's important for the actors to have that sort of transparency in the breakdown of the script, or at least the audition breakdown. So, yeah.
That's great. I love it. I feel like we got a little acting 101 session
real,
here.
I love talking about acting, like, and it's really fun to do it. It's also like a great form of self-expression and connection.
Yeah. Well, we do actually have one more question for you, and it's kind of a selfish question that Nick and I kind of crafted beforehand, just because we think you would have a very interesting answer.
For real.
And it's okay if you can't answer all 3, because it's kind of like a 3-part question.
Oh, wow.
But essentially, if everything and everyone that you know is basically gone when you're gone, so there's no memory of you, the things that you did that you couldn't leave behind, but the only thing that you were allowed to leave behind that like represented you was a song, a movie, and a book, what would they be?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, this is just kind of a fun question, so you don't have to think of it too literally, but...
Yeah. All right, so my favorite song, it goes... I would love that song to be like, I love that song, but I think it's Suzanne Varga is the artist.
I know the song. I don't know the title or anything, but yes, I know the song you're talking about.
It's such a like catchy. There's something about it. If you listen, it's something cafe. That's the name of the title. Something cafe.
It is a
I
bop.
can't remember. Was that?
It is a bop.
Yeah, it's a bop. It's a bop. Movie. Well. I rewatched Zoolander, and like that movie, like if I'm sad is such a like, if I'm happy, anytime I need to just be in a good mood, Zoolander is the movie that I go to. And I love the part when he's like,
Oh, geez, yeah.
That's a great scene.
There's so many like funny, you know, a lot of times movies like will, you know, kind of heighten the version of reality. Like everybody, you know, when somebody makes, how do I explain it? You know, when it's like, oh, it's so Hollywood, or it's so dramatized, you know, it's like an elevated version of the story. But like Zoolander, there's so many things that people do say in fashion, like, oh, he's so in right now. Hansel, he's so in right now. Like, it's just so funny, like how they were like so on point and like making fun of it, but it was like, it's like actually what people say and do. And like, yeah, I just thought it was really funny.
That's hilarious.
And then book. That's a difficult question because I there's only so many books that I've ever finished in my life.
I mean, you're too busy reading scripts.
I feel that. Cole.
Yeah, I wish that I was reading more, to be honest. But okay, let's see here. There's a couple, like I feel like there's a kind of a what's the word? A genre of books that I really recommend people, like, on going back to the topic of mental health and everything. These books have really helped me. I really love Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Yes, very good, very good.
Yeah, The Alchemist is a great kind of more fictional approach to manifesting your dreams and things like that. The Alchemist.
That's a fable, so anyone who hasn't read it, like, that's a great suggestion. I'm just saying. Sorry.
Alchemist. And then a book that's so just like out there and trippy and like, what is this person talking about? Who is this person? But that's kind of interesting. And if you like manifesting things and like miracles and stuff like that, I really love the Course on Miracles. It's a very thick book, and a person was basically like, they kind of was like, they were like downloaded information and then they put it into a book. So it's like, it's kind of got this really interesting voice to it, as far as like, it's not necessarily the writer who's saying this is what I've written. It's like something that she felt was sort of carried or sent through her. And so I really like the topic. And if that one is too thick of a book, because I didn't finish it, I would recommend Marianne Williamson's books that relate to the Course of Miracles. She kind of breaks it down too. So Marianne Williamson is amazing.
Great. I love that. And I feel like it takes us perfectly into our last but Nick's favorite segment. Is it your favorite segment, Nick?
I'd say so. I enjoy this segment. Hannah, would you like to introduce it?
Is it recommendations?
This girl gets it. She gets it.
See, the problem is that I'm never going to be able to do that because I can't roll my tongue or R's or anything. And now I'm just going to be trying to do that for every episode next. So I'm sorry, everyone.
It's so
she just
true.
set the standard. And
It's up here now.
No, Krista, I really want to hear what your attempt at rolling your tongue sounds like.
Please, yes, Krista, do it for the podcast.
Try to finish the word though.
Recommendation.
That
is great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
Yeah, awesome.
That's hilarious. Hannah, would you like to lead us off? Do you have your recommendation?
Recommendation. So I think I kind of teased it at the beginning. A free piece of advice, you don't have to go anywhere to get this, is breathing. And it's so simple. We're supposed to do it autonomously, but it has so much power to it. I mean, without breath, what happens to a human being? It's like a fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
So I think breathing is really important. So something that I really like to do with people is breathe together with them. So I'll give us the opportunity with our listeners.
I love this.
Yes, to experience the power of breath. We're going to take 3 deep breaths in together. So when you take the first deep breath in, I'm going to count you down, and I want you to hold for a second at the top. And when you release, you can actually make an audible sigh if you want, you can make a sound on the way out.
I remember this.
But I would just recommend breathing as deeply as you can and holding it for a second at the top and then releasing. So on the count of 3, we're going to take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. Hold. And out. Good. 2 more times. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. All right. How do you guys feel?
That was a throwback
much
to
better.
school.
That feels really good, and it's like so simple.
Yeah. Feel a little more
And
engaged.
it kind of like, for me, I think a lot of my lesson that I'm still learning every day is that things are way more simple than we make them out to be. So like when I get anxiety and or frustrated or I get down on myself and things like that, it's just the process of overthinking or getting stuck thinking about one thing in particular. And so breathing really helps. And if you just focus on your breath, that can relieve or release some of the pain or tension you might be feeling.
That's a really good thing. I kind of learned about this in school, but that's that everybody listen to Hannah.
It's like a daily like recommendations, like it's like a daily reminder too, and that's kind of going back like when we talk about mental health or like be aware of it. It's just kind of that being aware of presence, like everybody has their something that's giving them life. Their body is moving and seeing and feeling and hearing and touching and smelling and tasting, and our senses like are alive, and I think we have overcomplicated life so much with status and success and the superficial, outside features and things like that. And it's just like we're miracles being alive and being here. And once you like harness that energy in yourself, you realize you are capable of anything you want to accomplish. And when you do spread that positive, like, me telling you that continues to build the power of miracles in me. So it's like, it's important too to kind of spread that ripple effect.
I love it. It seems simple, but it's just like one of those things. Yes, I love that daily reminder. And now next time when we do recommendations, it will be in the back of our head. Like, oh yeah, we need to remember to breathe.
Implement it every podcast.
Sorry, Nick?
We'll implement it in every podcast.
Yay. Well, it's really important for artists, like especially, anybody if you're dancing or if you're an athlete, even like a writer or speakers, like we get so excited, and that's great. Being excited is so important. Yeah. But like sometimes that excited energy can kind of take control, and all of a sudden you forget to breathe.
Yeah, it's true. So,
yeah.
Well, Nick, do you think you can top her recommendation? Are you gonna go?
Heck no, but I'm gonna try. So I personally picked up an old hobby of mine. It was woodworking, basically. Building things. I've always liked that. And I was just thinking of how much I loved it. Like I took it in high school and everything for like 5 years. Like I almost debated going into it after high school. Then I realized, nope. But I still love crafting and building things and woodworking, so I've gotten back into it. I'm doing a couple projects right now, and I guess my recommendation is if you had an old hobby and it kind of went away, try to find it again. Or if you've never had a hobby, find a hobby, because hobbies are pretty cool.
I love that.
Hobbies are great. I mean, I'm not going to be a woodworker, but I love it.
Yeah, I don't trust you around saws, Krista.
I was about to say, I would be so scared to cut my thumb off.
Right?
It's a fear you got to take, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I think for my recommendation, I think it's all interesting. All of our recommendations are things to go do or try. So my recommendation this week is to plan a date with either your partner or your best friend, but make it a surprise. Sometimes I feel like we're so caught up in our day-to-day activities that we have to feel like we have to confirm everything. Like, do you want to do sushi? Do you want to do pizza? Or do you want to go to the beach? Like, just pick that person up. Be like, get dressed. We're going. That's going to put such a big smile on their face, and you're going to feel really good about yourself doing it, too, because you're going to be like, hee, I'm so sneaky and so fun.
That's really good.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about surprises.
Right? It's my partner did it for me on Monday, and it was like, okay, get dressed up. We're going for happy hour, and it was just like, we're doing this? Like, it's just planned? Okay. So it just made my day.
It worked.
That's fun.
That's a good one. Anyway, I guess this is it. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I'm so happy that we found a time that was, that worked out, and it's been an awesome conversation. So the pleasure is mine as well.
I would love to do this again potentially in the future.
And also, we want to plug your Instagram right now. So for any of our followers who are not following Hannah Cat Jones, please do. I believe it is just her name as your Instagram handle.
Yes, Hannah. It's a palindrome, which means you can spell it forwards and backwards.
Oh my God, I never realized that.
It's really.
I didn't know that was a word. Cool.
Yeah, it's really useful for people who are dyslexic or really bad spellers. So it's HANNAH, and then my middle name is the second part of Kit Kat, so it's KAT. And then my last name is Jones, like keeping up with the Joneses, and that's why I don't like lines. I have to always be at the front of them, or else I feel like I'm not living up to my name. Yeah. But it's been so great. Like, I really appreciate the connection that you guys made with me tonight. Like, I really, I feel a lot better because I know at the beginning of I was going to call it a session. Like, you guys are my therapist. At the beginning.
We can be.
Yeah, talking is really good therapy. It's just, it can be so frightening sometimes to like kind of be vulnerable, and I'm somewhat of like, I don't know if I'm an introvert extrovert or an extrovert introvert, but I'm definitely a hybrid.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure, and I really I hope you guys all the success in the world. I love what you're doing, and don't give it up. Keep on inspiring people.
Okay.
Aww, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. That is our friend. I'm going to call you our friend. You're our friend now.
Yes.
You came on the podcast. You're an automatic friend, and you're an honorary. We call our listeners Kurds. We're still working on the name.
She's like the queen of Kurds.
Oh, thank you. Honorary what? Honorary curd?
Curd, because it goes on top of like poutine. Like there's the cheese curds. So
she's American.
I love that. That's great. That's a good one.
Yeah,
it's nice, short and sweet.
We're pretty hilarious. But we'll be back at it again with more Discontinued Gravy next week.
Talk to you later.